Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this December 21st version of AM Live on EOA. Your connection to Eastern Oregon, and we're on the EOA network.
I think Benny set you up right there.
Did he?
Well, I mean, he said 3 and then it went to camera.
Well, I told him the other day that he didn't need to give us the countdown all the way to the end.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I thought he was trying to set you up. Oh, you don't got to set him up. Let's not start the day off like that.
Yeah. How are you, man?
I'm good. It's first Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you have to scrape your windows this morning?
I walked. I walked so I didn't have to scrape my windows. I'd rather be cold for about 10 minutes than have to scrape those windows.
Yeah, I don't know what
they'll be defrosted by the time I go get my car.
Right. Yeah.
I hate scraping them. I don't even have a scraper. I use a card out of my wallet. I mean, I guess I could get a scraper, but...
Yeah. Oh, I don't know if you could afford that or not.
Yeah. Oh, they're only like 99 cents. But I suffer when I do have to scrape it because then all the ice goes onto my hand because I'm doing it with a credit card. You know, it's not a very good thought process, but it works.
Yeah. So I'm one of those people's like I'm looking. There's this morning there was a little
hole about
there
this
was
big.
a little hole. Yeah, I didn't even have to scrape, but there was just a little bit. I could see it, and by the time.
And I'm the kind of person that has to scrape every single window. You know what I mean? Otherwise,
really?
Yeah, it'll annoy me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like in the morning, it's not so bad, but at night, I don't see very well, anyways, because my stigmatism gives me that light aura around lights.
Yeah.
So like if I got to stack the cards in my favor instead of stacking them against me, So I'll scrape that thing, make sure it's all nice and clear, and
Yeah. The show last night was good.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
And Justin, there were some interesting questions, some interesting comments, and we plowed through some stuff. Like there was some questions that we didn't answer. Obviously, there's always a couple, but. They answered pretty much everything that was thrown their way.
Yeah.
I like
if you all missed it, Keeping It Clear with Cody Bowen was last night, and Mayor Justin Rock was also on the show, and the three of you all grew up
within a couple of years of each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Cody was a senior when I was a freshman. Justin was a senior when I was an 8th grader, so. And then Cody's brother's my age.
Yeah. And Justin and Cody, they lived
on the same street.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Justin's mom was my boss, when I was in high school.
Yeah.
So we have
a lot of history.
Yeah.
A lot of ties.
Needless to say, and I'll say it again, I would have never assumed that those two would be sitting in here as the mayor and the sheriff.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's a huge group of kids your age that are now they're a part of, the LeGrand. They're a part of the.
Isn't that kind of natural though?
Yeah,
like
I suppose so. But I don't know that it's always. That they've taken leadership positions. I'm thinking of Sean Rastine and Corinne Bajati, the publisher at the Observer. There's just a whole group of you that are.
They're both graduated with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I think it's good for LeGrand. Like I think
that's awesome
to get some new blood in and kind of push out that good old boy thoughts process that kind of.
Well, I think that part of it speaks a little bit to the healthiness of LeGrand. If people are coming back and they're taking leadership, taking leadership positions and moving LeGrand forward, and
I think it's easy to care about a place that's good. You know what I mean? Like people that grew up here care about it because they treasure what happens here and how people act and just the beautiful environment that we live in. And I think another thing is people my age especially, we're like right at the very end of seeing what it was like like in the late 90s, early 90s versus now, and it's a lot different. It really is. There's I've talked about it numerous times. It used to be like It used to be a pride thing, like the homeless situation. You never saw homeless people in LeGrand, ever. They lived out back behind the baseball field, and you never ever saw them.
Yeah.
And now you do. So I think like people my age are the ones that have got to see both sides of that story. So we have like that genuine concern for what's going on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, hey, you want to do sports?
Let's do it.
All right.
AM Sports Report brought to you by Buffalo Peak Golf Course. Go out to Union and check it out. I mean, it's not the greatest weather, but you can still probably get a few holes in, you know what I mean? It's not snowing yet, so go out there. We're going to have Dana and Pat Flynn from the hospital on here in the next couple of weeks. They did the breast cancer tournament, and Dana's going to present Pat with a check for, I want to say it's like $3,200 is what it raised this year for mammograms only. And it goes into a fund that gives women who can't afford mammograms at the hospital. It's awesome. And Dana does a tournament every year out there at Buffalo Peak. So go out and support them. They're a great part of this community, Union County. Buffalo Peak Golf Course. Meet me at the Peak. EOU men's basketball kicked off their Florida trip. They had a tough loss yesterday against University of Fort Lauderdale, 72-70. In the second half, we were really playing good, like early on. And then as it got down the stretch, I mean, I don't usually question much things that Kemp does as a coach, but the starters never came back into the game. And I don't know if it's one of those things where it's not a league game, but I think when you're like 3-7, you got to try to win no matter what, in my eyes. And I kind of question that, and I'll talk to him about it, and I'll get an interview with him, and we'll figure out what was going on, because down the stretch, you know, you have your second unit in, and down the stretch you're down by 2 at the end of the game, and he kept his second unit in, and in my eyes, you want your best guys on the court to try to win a basketball game in that situation. Anyways, they're off until they play today, and then they're off till the 30th when they play the Yotes at home, the 30th of December up at Quinn. I mean, they got to get this season turned around. They were picked to finish a lot better than what they're showing right now as a team, and I have faith in this team. There's a lot of good talent on this basketball team, and if they can come together, they can still make some waves in the CCC this year. All the rest of the EOU athletics are off until after Christmas. The women play on the 30th as well against C of I right here at home, which that's a huge game. You play C of I twice a year, once on the road, once at home, and we want to beat C of I at home. I mean, if we beat the men's team at home, that's locker room video. You know what? It really is. That's what I call it. Like, because that's how big that game of a win that game is. Anyways, LeGrand girls basketball got a win last night at home versus Ridgeview, 43-31. They play again today at 12:30, I believe, up at the high school gym. And it's because it's Christmas break, so they'll host Redmond today, and then they're off till after Christmas. The boys didn't fare as well as the girls. They went to Ridgeview and lost 83-41, and then they turn around and play Redmond on the road today at 1:30. Outside of that, everyone else is off until Christmas break. I mean, is over, and that's, it's just we wait it out, and then they come back and grind after. I mean, like the basketball team up at EOU, they play the 30th, but and the boys basketball team plays in the Christmas Classic over in Baker on the 27th and 28th, and then everybody else is off until after the New Year. So yeah,
All right.
Morning Sports Report. Brought to you by Buffalo Peak Golf Course. Meet me at the Peak.
All right.
Yeah.
So have you been watching national football?
Yeah.
Who's favored? What's your assessment of who's gonna?
I like the Eagles still.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a Chargers fan, but we just fired our GM and our coach, and Herbert is out for the season.
Did you watch the Seahawks game the other night?
No.
I didn't watch the end of it, and then later on
I was supposed to have videos for you today. I forgot.
You were.
No, I haven't felt very good. So, we ain't even going there again today. We ain't doing it. We ain't doing it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you couldn't find any videos.
I didn't even look.
Right. Yeah.
No, I could find some videos. But yeah, I would say Eagles are good. 49ers are good, as much as I hate to say that, because we've made it to one Super Bowl, my Chargers, and they beat the brakes off of us in the Super Bowl. So
Yeah.
I'm not a Niners fan at all.
You're not?
No, they're about as low as the Raiders in my book.
Okay. So then who else? Kansas City, are they doing?
Always in the
Yeah.
picture,
Yeah.
with Mahomes and Kelsey. The Dolphins are tough this year, really tough. Yeah, I don't know. There might be a sneaker team or two too. Who knows?
Yeah.
I think out of the AFC though, you're looking at Kansas City. You're looking at Buffalo.
How many weeks are
Miami.
left before they start the playoffs, or have they started already?
No, they haven't started yet. I think there's 4 weeks left or 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, my Chargers are so bad that I haven't even been really paying that close of attention to the standings and everything, because I know we aren't going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Our quarterback's out for the year. We gave up 63 points to the Raiders, which is absolutely terrible.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the next day our head coach and our GM got fired. It should have happened last year though.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I don't know.
All righty. Well, hey, let's look outside at the weather cam.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Looks nice out there.
it does. And yesterday, what didn't get up in the 50s midday? I don't know what it's
Bennett
supposed to be.
said something about the 50s.
What's it supposed to be today, Benny? What's that?
Not 50s.
So the high
Oh,
is
I
48.
guess it is.
Yeah.
Dang near 50.
Yeah. So no precipitation. Looks like a little bit of snow maybe tomorrow. So yeah, all right.
I can be without the snow all
You're okay with that?
100% fine. No rain, no snow, no cold. Let's get about 75. Baseball season.
Yeah. Oh, and today's the shortest day of the year, by the way.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. Isn't that exciting? I don't know what that means, but
Oh, it means it's the
well,
least
I know
amount of
what I
light.
know what that means, but I mean it's like in reality it's like they just all of the days seem dark, when it's by 3:30 or 4 o'clock it's starting to get dark.
Yeah, and it's all dark when I wake up too.
Yeah.
Like I wake up today, dark.
Yeah.
It'll be dark at 4 o'clock tonight. That's a lot of darkness.
Yeah.
14 hours.
Yep. So, alrighty. Well, this morning we have EOU Vice President Tim Seydel with us, and he will be with us. We'll be talking about the grand staircase and the reconstruction of that, and then also everything EOU, and he'll be with us right after this.
Eastern Oregon is full of interesting people, with interesting minds and interesting things to say. Here at EO Live, we're committed to connecting you to these intriguing people with EO Talks. We let our special guests share their ideas and life experiences with deep, open, engaging, and inquisitive conversations. You'll also be informed in depth on some of the most recent and relevant events, issues, and more. EO Talks on EO Live, your connection to Eastern Oregon, now on Roku.
Right. All right, we're back with Vice President Tim Seydel from Eastern Oregon University. How are you, man?
Doing good. Doing good. I was looking forward to the cold weather. I want it to snow some more, so Dodzy and
Because
I.
you're a skier.
Yeah. Our whole family skis. We were up there on Sunday. We love going up to our little local ski hill and having a blast. And I'm waiting for a little more to come down.
Didn't they shut it down till like the 23rd or something?
They had to, yeah. They're just not getting any new snow, and want to protect what's up there already. So yeah, we're looking for some more colder temperatures. Snow, up in the mountains is really good. down here is always kind of nice too.
You know, it's funny because you and I were at that power summit that
Yeah.
OTEC did, and that was like,
Yeah.
when was that? That was like September.
Yeah,
Yeah.
September, and it snowed.
And we got a bunch of snow
Yeah.
that while we were up there.
Yeah, people up there were a little concerned, looking out the window, and it was not snowing. You know, you go out you leave the lodge and you dropped down. You maybe went a quarter mile down the hill and it was cleared up. You know,
Yeah.
but people were really getting nervous about the snow up there, and I was giddy. I was totally excited. I was up there with our new president, and she was like, "Does this happen a lot?" And I'm like, Yeah, it does. But we love the snow. This is great. She was digging it. So she's a skier, so she liked it too. So we were excited about it. But yeah, they got some good inches actually over that day. But then of course it warmed up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure most of the people weren't prepared. Like their vehicle doesn't have snow tires on in September, right? Like,
Right.
If it snowed enough, you could get stuck up there.
Yeah.
Well, and it was funny because during that summit, I mean, it snowed.
I saw pictures of it.
Yeah, I mean, there was a period of time where it was like you couldn't see the mountain looking out the
No.
window. You know, it was like,
It was coming down good.
yeah,
It was a right on snowstorm.
This is the least amount of snow I think ever by Christmas since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I don't remember it ever being this dry in the winter.
And this warm.
Yeah,
Like you were saying, those 50 degrees yesterday, I was amazed at how warm it was. Saw people walk around in shorts and t-shirts.
Yeah,
on
people are
campus.
talking about they should be out there doing their yard work.
Right.
And like,
Yeah,
it's
people
like
riding their bikes like it's
Christmas.
like it was back in September without the snow, and didn't seem right.
yeah. Well, Tim, we're here today to talk specifically about the staircase because we've shown a lot of whenever we show video. In fact, go ahead and roll that video, Bennett. There we go. And whenever we show this stuff,
Right.
and we showed this, and it like had, I don't know, I think it's by far had more views than we've had of a video like this in a long time.
Yeah.
You know, and so because people are super interested in the staircase because it's such a beautiful piece.
It's an iconic landmark. Anybody who grew up here in town, knows about the staircase. Whether you were just a kid, running up and down the stairs, maybe, or if you were old enough before we had to close it due to deterioration and conditions.
Yeah.
It's funny. A lot of people who ran like cross country and track and all that, they talk about running the stairs like they're Rocky Balboa in Philadelphia. And of course, years ago we had a lot of events up there, and things like Evensong and some academic events out there where we filled up the staircase with students and people sat in the streets and watched what was going on. So it's a big landmark, and we're working on trying to see what we can do we want to fix things up there. And it's really also an iconic connection to the university, between the university and the community.
Yeah.
And I think having that piece of that property, the property and the connection between Inlow Hall and the campus and the community is symbolic in so many ways. So that's another reason why this is an important project for me personally.
Yeah. And so how did you get involved with this process? Did somebody just hand it to you?
Yeah, more or less. So when I came back to Eastern, I grew up in LeGrand too. When I came back to Eastern, it was one of the things I got hit with now over 20 years ago. People were saying, we got to do something about this staircase. It had fallen into really into disrepair and become really a challenge in terms of keeping it safe for folks. So we ended up having to just close it off because of the deterioration of the entire structure. And you still see, I'm looking at Dodds because you could still see people when they do their high school graduation pictures around here. They'll pop up on video, on feeds, on Facebook and things. And I was like, what are they doing on the staircase?
Yeah.
But they went out and got a picture next to the staircase again because it's a cool place. It's iconic, and everybody knows it. So we started working on trying to see what we could do to repair the staircase quite a number of years ago. And really got into it when Dixie Lund, her first presidency, we really sat down and worked with a group of alumni and community members and other stakeholders. We brought in some architects and engineers to start looking at what we could do to put together, okay, how much would this cost to fix? What would it take to get some resources? What all do we need to do? And took a serious look at it. That developed into several plans that we continued to shop for a number of years, trying to find some funding. It's not something that you can just do. Oh, we just need a couple $1,000s to fix it. And so it's a pretty significant piece of structure, and where it's positioned on the hillside and connected to the building and all that. There's a lot that goes into it. And we just kept working on and shopping it, and we kind of backed off after a while because we just weren't getting any help with it. We had some private donations that helped us kind of get that piece of it started, and that was really helpful. But there's not a funding mechanism anywhere we could find to really get the resources, the substantial resources it would take to invest in some major work on the staircase. And we had the great fortune of two sisters who lived grew up at the bottom of the staircase, and they came to us and kind of kept the dream alive and said, we'd like to keep this thing going. So we had a work group that continued to meet to just kind of push the idea along. And it was important for a lot of people. Even our previous president, Tom Insko, he had his engagement photos taken out there with his now wife, and so it was important for him too. We kept just trying to find resources, and finally, just in the last couple of years, I had a call from a couple of regional legislators, and they said, "Hey, Tim, we think we have some funds lined up for you." And I should also talk about, we've had some great help from our county commissioners. Paul Andrus and Matt Scarfo both were big. They were also adding that in all their conversations with legislators about how important this is. Got a call from a couple area legislators, and they said, hey, we think we have some funds we can allocate towards this one-time funding, investment in infrastructure, and could we think we can make this happen? And I said, we'll take whatever we can and try to put something together. So they allocated some resources for us, and we started on the process of then really actually getting this project going, which is, I think, what stimulated a lot of the views that you have from people seeing things happening out on the staircase. That we're in the construction or removal zone kind of piece right now. We have to really get the staircase removed, and then we have to assess all the land out there and what we're going to do with it to take the next steps in what we can replace.
So right now it's not being repaired, it's being replaced. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this is 1928-29 concrete.
Yeah.
It's been there almost 100 years, and it's taken its toll. It's taken a lot of beatings, particularly around the weather. But in our and we can show some of the images. In our evaluation of it, we're really seeing people look at it and go, "Oh, that looks pretty good," and then you look at it from I think from an engineer's standpoint, and you say, "No, that's not very good. That's not very safe." And then the other piece of it is, putting new concrete and attaching it to old structures just leads into potentially more damage in the future. So we want to put a structure back into place that has that connection between the university and the community, but also is another safe and sound structure that could maybe last another 100 years or more when we get complete with the project.
All right. Well, do you want to show us some of the pictures real quick?
Yeah, sure. I've got them up here. So this is really the staircase in its prime, right? This is looking from 9th Street directly, up onto the campus. And the way this was constructed, kind of the philosophy about it was that you would go up the stairs, and when you get to Inlow Hall there's two doorways, one on the right and one on the left as you get to the top of the stairs. And the idea back then was kind of a very almost romanticized approach, but faculty would go through in one door and students would go in through the other door, and then when they'd come, they'd enter the halls of learning, right? And then when they would come out, they would be presented to the community as the learned people, right? So it was a big deal. I love this because when you look at this on the screen, my old office windows were in the left of the fore part of the building, and it was really neat to be able to. They were pretty high in my office, but it was still neat to say, okay, there's my window right there, right? And in our renovations, we're doing major renovations to Inlow Hall right now. So the entire building is closed, but our boardroom will be, and those windows that you see there that are closed, those are going to be opened up.
Oh, cool.
And our boardroom will be just on the other side of that, so we have a large meeting space there to take in the beauty of the of Mount Emily and looking north up into the valley and that sunlight and everything else that comes into it. So that'll be a really nice change. But this is what the stairs look like in their heyday. And here's your visual. Here's a visual of it. You can see what it looks like a little bit more today. A lot more trees, a lot more growth around there. So we're in the project. We're also doing a lot of landscaping there to try to remove some of those trees that were not planned. They're rogue growth. And as you can tell, if you look here, then you look back here, look at the view. You can see how much more of Inlow Hall you can see.
Yeah.
And then you go here, you really can't see it at all.
Right,
And
yeah.
We envision a place where potential students, for example, an alumni will come in and they'll drive up, to the bottom of the staircase and see something a little less hidden like this and something a little more grand like that.
Okay.
So the staircase got to where you could really see some of the deterioration here. You can see the balustrades that are broken and cracked, and just the overall deterioration of it, getting to where it's not really safe, right? That's why we had to block it off. Here's really some more of these are the structural, pieces of it that are holding up some of the railing on it, and you can see how broken down it really is, how much deterioration it is. And again, when they built things back in the 20s, they would different concrete mixes, different.
Right.
It's going to take longer. We also did some things that didn't help. They put salt on it over the years, trying to help melt the ice and snow on it, and that, of course, after a while can eat into the concrete and cause some damage as well. So we moved to started doing some plans. This is one of the plans I thought that just helps illustrate really a lot of what we're working on. This is one of the drawings. I like this one. One, it's really cool, but two, these almost look like palm trees.
Yeah.
They kind of do. I was going to ask you that.
It's like,
You're gonna
I'm
throw
not
some
sure what
palm
kind of
trees
tree
in
it
there?
is, but it looks lovely. It looks like something, from in Southern California or something. So maybe it'll help Dodzy warm up a little bit.
Yeah, I love it.
But it's a beautiful rendition of, this is one of the original ones from the architect. This is the structure looking from above Inlow Hall and down towards L Avenue and 9th Street. And you can see the curved landing at the top, then the middle landing, and then the lower landing. And what we were really looking at, what's moved, what's shaped, what's changed over the years. Skip over this one, and now you can see, if you can see this, I don't know, but you can see where this retaining wall in the front is bulging. It's leaning out a little bit to the left. You can see the line of the shape of the retaining wall, but then you can also see where it's actually supposed to be a little bit straighter. And that's just, again, earth moving.
Just failure. Yeah. Over
failure.
over 100 years.
Yeah, it's on a hillside.
Yeah.
And even though it's well anchored in there, things do move over time.
Yeah.
And there's, again, an identifier. You can see the existing cracks in some of this. So you can see where, again, no matter what we do up there, if we were to try to just repair some of this, it's just a matter of time before it's going to fail, and we're going to have to go in and do some more work. And the bigger concern there is something really even worse happening. We don't want anybody to get injured or anything. Again, you can see some of these cracks in the retaining walls at the upper and mid sections of the building, and we've, again, some trees kind of helping us out there.
Yeah, when I was up there the other day, there was this rogue tree that I had to fly over the top that was just right in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that, those roots over time, again, slow pressure on any, look at sidewalks around town and things. You can see where trees have grown up over the years, and they just push that concrete up and up and up. And
They make for pretty good bicycle or skateboard.
yeah, or tripping over in the dark when you don't see them. I've done that.
But speaking of trees, let me ask you this question, because I see on social media a lot of people have been asking about like these new pictures that have come out where all the trees are gone. Like there's new pictures where pretty much all the trees are gone.
Yep.
That was a plan. That was part of the plan.
It's part of the plan. We need to remove those trees and put in new growth in there. Again, part of it was that the root systems in those trees were really in conflict with what the structure of the staircase.
Yeah.
Also, it just removes a lot of the view shed when you have all of those trees. And they were rogue. They weren't planned or organized. They just had come up over the years, probably with the help of like the nearby trees and squirrels and things like that. So that was part of the plan. It's always been part of the plan, is to update that landscape across the front of the building, and again, open up that connection.
Yeah, that's good clarification, because there's been a lot of people on social media saying, "Where'd all the trees go?" You know what I mean?
Yep.
But if the picture side by side of the original, idea, and then with the trees, you're supposed to see it. You know what I mean? Like
That's the
point.
intent, right? We don't want it to be hidden and be, again, what a great connection to see between the staircase and the connection between the university and the community, and make it highly visible so you can see it some more. So but rest assured, we'll be replanting in that area. It's not just going to be a barren hillside.
Right.
Again, these are more specifics around what you're seeing with the staircase. And this one, like on the right and even on the left, you can see though the deterioration of the landings. Again, just getting a lot of abuse over the years, and it getting to the point where we've got to do something significant with this structure. And let's see, that's another view of you. This really has more of the lines around it in terms of what we're looking to reconstruct, like the overlook, the overlook terrace, and what pieces we need to put put back into place, or we want to put in place. This is the one that I find interesting, and a lot of other people want to ask about, because people think we might have just built it on the hill. Well, actually, there was a lot of fill that went in. We had to bring up fill in the backside of that hill to be able to construct it. So as you imagine, over 100 years, that fill has settled. That's where some of the cracking, you can see where there was fill. This shows where there's upper gravel, then there's some silt and lower gravel. So even though it was a naturally occurring hillside, we had to fill in there to be able to construct the staircase, and that again has shifted over time. But I just like this cross section.
I did too,
because you can kind of see, it shows the elevation, it shows what's underneath it. It gives you an idea of what we're working with, and it's not just sitting on bedrock, for example. It's on stuff that moves over time. And then this is just back to that staircase, and you can see where the existing retaining walls are, and that those are even those have been falling apart, and you go out there every month or so, and there'd be another piece that has fallen or deteriorated, and that was another part of the reason we need to do something with her, because it was becoming what we call an attractive nuisance, where somebody, kids a lot of times, want to go and get on the staircase and take some photos up there, whenever, and a big piece of concrete like that falling on somebody's foot or something, that's a problem.
Right.
And we don't want anybody, we didn't want to get anybody injured there. So that's again, it's something you want to get away from. And that was becoming part of the problem too. We were going to have to either just remove it, and that even then, that's very costly. It's amazing. The costs on these projects, any of our projects, and I'm sure anybody doing construction in and around this area or actually across the state can tell you about the cost escalators over just the last 2 to 4 years have just been incredible. For anybody working on a construction project, if you're building a house, let alone if you're trying to build something like what the hospital's doing or what we're doing with renovations to our buildings, the costs are just going up. Inflation hits pretty hard on that. We have a set amount of resource to use, and then we've got to manage around that. So our first piece of this is to get the removal done, and we can assess what we have to do, what we have to work with, and make a plan that would hopefully bring a staircase back in.
So right now, where are you at? I don't know, give us an idea of where funding started and where it's at now, so people have an
So the funding started. We have an allocation of around $4 million. It's around $4 million, and that is what we put into a package to try to get bids for contracting firms to come in and help us remove the staircase and get a replacement, get another staircase back in there. The intent would be to keep it as very much as connection as what we already have in there, what the staircase looks like. The staircase also is on the National Historic Preservation list, list of historic places. So we have to work with the State Historic Preservation Office and other folks to ensure that we're following all those guidelines and rules, and that we're trying to restore or replace the staircase with something as close to the original as possible. Again, that's great, but it costs a lot to do that. And so we're at the point in terms of timeline where we started in on the removal of it. We've got a little break right now in January. We'll have our archaeological observers here, and anytime we are working on land, especially this land, which is indigenous land for the tribes from this region, we need to have observers out there. And if there are artifacts that come up in this fill, because that, of course, wasn't being done in the early 20s. They weren't really too worried about that. But if there's something that comes up, we need to stop our processes, identify what it is, and mitigate that issue too. And we had to do that pre-planning, where we had to look to where, okay, if there's something we find here, where could we rebury? Where could we reset those pieces? And you never know what is. The interesting part about Eastern, of course, is that there's an old historic cemetery where Inlow Hall sits. That was something that's been there for, gosh, since the mid to late 1800s, as the pioneers came through this area and people lived here. They passed away. That's where they were buried. It was a pretty nice, pretty overlook to the valley. And when the land was purchased and they started building the university there, we relocated as many of the human remains that we could find at the time, but some of them had gone missing because the headstones or the markers had disappeared, and we didn't have anything left to find them. So there's that issue there. So if we inadvertently discover some remains, we have to really take care of that. Right. So, and then people know that there's. A long time for Inlow Hall, we've talked about ghosts in the building. I've experienced some of that. It's interesting. We had some remains that were exposed under one part of the building, and I got to work on that with one of our, actually quite a while ago, with one of our previous presidents, where we also then worked with the local historic cemetery commission and our own local cemetery commission and the tribes and SHPO and others to come up with a plan to mitigate that issue and basically reinter those remains, seal them in place, and actually then had a really nice ceremony to release those spirits and let them go back to their happy hunting grounds and where they could be at peace. And then people said, I'm not hearing as many weird sounds at night in Inlow Hall and all that. So, and I got to admit, I used to think, but I've worked in there enough. There's been a couple late nights where I hear weird things, and you're like, "What is going? Who's out in the hallway?"
Yeah,
and there's nobody in the hallway.
Alone in this building?
Yeah, and you don't really feel like you're alone. So yeah, it's
Bigfoot.
Thing. It's
Yeah.
Bigfoot.
So it was the cemetery. How did they determine whether the remains are settlers or Native American?
You have to do testing. Really,
Oh, okay. So there's a process for
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is a process, and given the longevity of people in this region and the high percentage of mixed marriages, there's probably remains up there. Then you also had the settlers, just the white Europeans who were coming through the area, and we had a couple of bad runs of cholera and typhoid fever in the Grand Ronde Valley in the late 1800s, and so those individuals who passed away a lot of them were buried in this area. Again, we were able to relocate them, many of them that were marked, but there are some that weren't marked, and we couldn't know who was there. So over the years, there have been inadvertent discoveries, and we've tried to mitigate those as much as possible.
So, how much cost does the mitigation of remains add to a project? I mean, just ballpark. I mean, I can't imagine even budgeting for that. I mean, how do you?
It's in the budget. It does. It can cost it can cost tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on what you see, and also can cost in terms of stoppage of time. Right.
Right.
We also have contractors on deck, so they've got all their equipment. They have to pay their people. We can't say, well, sorry, we found some shards of pottery.
They're on the clock.
Yeah. So they're on the clock. So we have. That's why there's all this pressure to try to figure out how to take the steps in place. Put the steps in place ahead of time, so that if something does happen, we have a plan that everybody's agreed to, and we can take care of those whatever it is, those artifacts, or if they're heaven help us, if there's remains or something, we can deal with that as well.
No, I'm trying. I mean, like if somebody came to me like, okay, we have a video project. This is what the video project is.
Right.
But there could be an interruption in the middle of it, and your crew has to be on standby.
Yeah.
I mean,
you would still expect to be paid for that, right?
yeah.
It's like,
I mean, how would you?
have to
Yeah,
do
I
the
don't
same
even know
thing,
how
so-
I'd even get my head around budgeting something like that.
yeah, you have to set in a budget for if everything goes smoothly, and then have a plus or minus feature on, if something comes up, how long do we think it might take? Well, it might take another, whatever, week, 10 days, and
Yeah.
so you factor that into the budget, and that's where a lot of these cost escalators come from. It's not like you're just doing this in your backyard or something.
Yeah.
So,
One of the other questions that comes up on social media, is there a time capsule?
is there a
Is there
time
something
capsule?
buried? Yeah, did they bury something in the
No,
20s?
no, not that I'm aware of. There's
That
no
would have
time
been
capsules
cool.
back there.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, we've had a couple time capsules on campus that were buried, and one of them was over kind of by Hoke Hall. I remember, and we pulled that one up, I think, and looked at it, and there was copies of like the old student newspaper in there, and some things like it wasn't like there was gold or anything. So that's what we joke about. There,
Gold would be
secret,
cool.
There's like a secret cave down there. So I don't want to start that again. People are like there's a pirate treasure or something like from the Goonies under the. There is not like anything
although
like
that would be cool.
That'd be great, right? Yeah, that'd be great. But no, we don't like that under the building. It's all, as you can see, sand and fill and that kind of thing.
So some of the questions like, is it going to be built exactly like it is, or are there some things that are going to be adjusted? It's got to be built according to code too, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so
Yep.
so talk to us about those
So it has to
particular
be
issues.
built, according to code. It also has to be built according to budget.
Right, right.
And as we get all this removal stuff done, we'll figure out how much we have left in the budget, and then find out what we can replace. One of the plans would be to actually working with our architects and engineers to first come up with that idea, that plan, sit down with them. This is how much resource we have left. This is what we can do with the target of trying to restore or replace, the staircase as is, have that beautiful view that we have in there. And if not, then what are we going to do? Or we have to phase it, or we're going to have to look at putting in part of the replacing part of the staircase, and then trying to get some more resources to complete the project. Or can we do something else that maybe is some more cosmetic changes, things you wouldn't normally see. You'd still see the beautiful staircase there. We may just engineer it a little bit differently to try to save some resources. So that's the next step we're going into right now. We got to get everything removed and assess really assess the ground behind or underneath the staircase before we can make any definite moves going forward.
So right now the plan is to get it removed.
Yeah.
But there's some more assessment that has to be done before the reconstruction happens.
Yeah. But it's not just okay. Here we're going to go. It's okay. What do we have left to work with, and what do we have to work with? Again, just like any project, if you're thinking, I'm going to renovate my house, and you go in and you're going to put in a new bathroom, you find out that these pipes are old, and
Right.
I'm going to have to replace all those. And,
Right.
I didn't really calculate for that, and then you find out that and you've got this structural issue connecting to the city water main, and so now you got to bring in a backhoe, and all of a sudden you're like, well, that wasn't what I planned for.
Right.
And that's what we're doing too. We want to make a really wise decision and make sure that we're looking at all the aspects of the project before we just go, okay, this is what we're going to do. Because again, we have limited resources, and this isn't something that we can just write a blank check for. So we want to really be cautious about it. We have, like I said, we got about $4 million in funding, a little bit less than that, but that gives us a lot of resource to work with. And I know it seems like a lot, but the costs, I just got to reiterate, the costs for construction and things have gone up.
It's crazy right now.
Crazy. It was even finding contractors for this, right? We had one bid we got that was just extremely high, and it was crazy. We can't even really entertain that kind of a bid process. Probably somebody just shooting in the dark and be like, well, let's see if they come up with the resources to do this. And he said, no, we have a set budget. You got to come in underneath that budget. And so we went to really more of a design build concept where the contractor will work with us to remove and then help us complete the designs. We have a lot of work we've done over the last 20 plus years to all the different assessments, 3D scans of the staircase, core drilling to see what's under there. But that all has to go into, just like any other design, what you can actually do to implement.
What about according to code and law? And I'm sure you guys have looked at this. Is there any responsibility, handicap accessibility on the stairs?
No, because of the it's a state historic. It's a
because
historic,
of the historical nature
right?
of it.
Yeah. So there are ways we can try to mitigate that, and see if there's that's one of the things we've talked about over the years was what if we just had like one landing in the middle in a new staircase, and you could have a way where you have a sidewalk kind of come down from the side and then gently go down to the lower level, and you think, well, okay, what would that be like in the winter? Right. So
right.
again, one of the things it's not a publicly, but you're not required to get to the university using the staircase.
Right.
You can always drive around. We have a lot of accessibility on campus. That's been one of the focal points of all of our construction on the buildings at EOU is to ensure that we have adequate access where somebody can get right up to the building, access an elevator or a lift to be able to get into the facility and have that freedom of access and movement throughout all of the buildings. But staircase is not on that where we have to factor that in.
And so your best guess, when do you think concrete might be poured?
If everything goes according to plan, it would be this spring and summer. So we can get it all worked out.
After you get it torn out, there's going to be some assessment, but there's a plan to move forward and spend as much money as you have to get as far as you can.
Yep. That's exactly the way to put it. Yeah. To get as far as we can, and that's where we'll have to figure out what we have to work with.
Yeah.
And then like we've talked about, if we put in the stairs, could we make them frost free? Really, so we put in the little the heating systems in there, so you'd have that. Well, that's one of the things you look at when you're in a doing some budgeting, budget engineering, and say maybe we might have to forego something like that.
Right.
So we'll still have the stairs in there, but they won't be heated. Okay, let's scratch that off the list. Again, similar to what you might do at any project if you have a small business or even a large business or a home you're building, and you look at the cost and you say, well, okay, maybe we won't have that 4th bathroom. We'll just do the 3 bathrooms.
Yeah. So currently the stairs, one thing, they don't really have handrails. I mean, because I don't know what you call those little walls along the way. I mean, they're not really.
Designed to be handrails.
Right, yeah. So is that something like from the code standpoint that you guys are going to have to accommodate? Do you have to put handrails in somehow?
I don't think so. Again,
Okay.
I think there's ways you can mitigate that.
Okay.
One of the issues I remember early came up was how the spacing of the balustrades were too far apart for current code from what was there originally. And when talking with some of the architects and engineers, they said, well, one thing you could do would be you replace it as is, but then you put up some basically almost like fencing on the other side or one side of it, so that a little kid couldn't put their head through there and maybe crawl through and fall. So you do it that way. You don't.
Okay.
And then again, if we have to go back and say, to do that, we actually are going to move them a little bit closer. We have to work with the State Historic Preservation Office and others to get that. They understand that also we're trying to keep that historic component in place as much as possible.
So is there any visual component that is not going to be able to be recreated that you can think of?
No, I think it'll just go back to what we have to work with.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. What we have to work with.
Is there a possibility of we'll do this amount of stuff and we'll try and raise money to finish it? I mean,
yeah, there could be something like that where we put in the beautiful those retaining walls, and it could be I'm not saying any of this would be like this is just kind of throwing things out where we might look at, okay, we're going to do the retaining walls first, and then we'll work on the stairs in another phase or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be the biggest thing that we want to take care of next is that assessment after the removal of the stairs and what we have left to work with.
So and then one question we get all the time is well, wait a minute, how come we can't spend this $4 million on roads? There's a lot of other things that, so address that, will you?
Sure. Well, first of all, these funds are specifically dedicated to an infrastructure project, and that project is the grand staircase. There was going to be a cost at some point because we were either going to have to remove the staircase and just let that hillside go back to natural growth because of the attractive nuisance issue, because of it being something that is dangerous. Even if we just covered it, just really put in a lot of fencing and covered it almost like so that you could see it, like kind of like you might see like in Italy or Greece or somewhere. You go see the old ruins there.
Yeah.
You know, they have nice fences around them. You can't go in and visit them. You can't go and walk around them. But you know and you just watch them deteriorate. That still cost a lot of resource to do that. The other part about this that I think we want to look long term at is this adds to the vibrancy of the university community connection. This is going to help us. This will, in fact, help us, retain and graduate students, but also recruit students. If you add some things that help become attractive when people come into town, they see this lovely connection, an access point for the university.
Yeah.
And the more students we can bring in, of course, the more resources come into the entire community. And those are a lot of long-term resources. These are funds that come in. Because people come in here and they may buy a home, they may rent here for a number of years, and then graduate and then go to work in our community, like a lot of us have, and be here. Or you leave, you go to school at Eastern, and you leave and you go to graduate school, and you come back here as a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer or something else, and you live here and support the community. So there's that long-term investment that we believe is incredible for the university and for the community. And that part of it is something that is, again, this is a kind of almost a one-time project, right? This is not something we're going to continue to work on. As you saw, in the old pictures, we put it in place in 1928. Opened the university in 1929. So almost 100 years before we had to really do something significant with the staircase. So this one-time investment goes a long ways.
Yeah. So Tim, you and I have sat on committees and boards and stuff together and had a lot of conversation. And I do want to say I appreciate you a great deal for your longevity in LeGrand. I appreciate you serving in the position that you have served.
Sure.
You are kind of like the trainer of presidents. That's not the right word. Trainer. That's not the word. But I mean, you have.
I get it.
You
I've
have
gotten good at it. Yeah.
Yeah. You have oriented. You've done a lot of orientation over the years stuff. But one of the things that I've heard you talk about is the conversations that come up about connecting LeGrand more to EOU. And one of the things that you've talked about is like literally maybe having a street or a pathway or I mean talk about that vision just a little bit, because I think that's interesting.
And that's been around. It's not, and again, it's not anything new, and it goes back to actually talking to some of our older alumni and administrators and staff who've worked at the university for many years, who talked about the kind of the conduit between the university and the community, and people going down 6th Street or going down 8th Street or going down the stairs on 9th and then walking a couple blocks and boom, you're downtown, right? You're there. I think it's great because you can kind of walk straight across there, straight down the street. You cross Washington and you're at the local, and there's a really nice, town-gown connection there. But one of the concepts we had for a number of years was opening up maybe 8th Street or 9th Street and widening it, adding more, turning it into more of a boulevard, adding more, what do you call it? I guess amenities along the street. We put in lamp posts and have it a little bit better, well lit, and make it that obvious connection to the community and the university. We might have like signage at the bottom of the staircase that have literally like little maps. Go, whatever, downtown 3 blocks this way, or you can, and then you go down to maybe another junction, maybe on Washington, and then there's another little directions that tell you can go this way to go into downtown and what's down there, or this way to go into more uptown part of the community and see what's there. And then the same thing in reverse, where there might be some great opportunities for some directional signage downtown, so that people see that, if I just go straight up this street, I get to the university.
Right.
Even to the point where we've talked about, could you paint the curbs like blue and gold, or something like that,
right,
where just follow those blue and gold curbs and you'll get downtown.
Yeah.
But again, just help drive that connection when students get here and they want to walk downtown, and they can go down there and find it, and it's really easy. But also just putting it out there that there's this visible connection between the university and the community.
Well, and I think that would be powerful. I do. You and I, because we've talked about EOU is so self-sufficient. It's almost like a little city in and of itself.
Yeah.
And and so it's easy to, from the standpoint of LeGrand folks, I mean, it's easy for the two to not be involved in each other's lives. That's kind of the point. And so then anything that we can do to integrate, because LeGrand would not be the same without EOU.
Right. Yeah, it'd be a little different town, wouldn't
Right.
it?
Yeah. And I mean, go to Baker, go to some other place that wishes that they had a university, or they don't have the benefits of it, you know. And so yeah, us making that better. I mean, us, facilitating that connection would be powerful.
Yeah, it just takes, it's active participation, and we're doing it on our end. We just hosted the Santa Mall up on campus. They needed a location to do it, and some folks on our staff got us connected all up, and we said, yeah, we'll sponsor that and have them on campus. And we hosted it on campus and picked up the cost for it. We also are partners with the Eastern Oregon Film Festival. We support the Eastern Oregon Livestock Show and the Elgin Stampede. So Eastern is at all those places, not only because that's where our students are coming from and our faculty and our staff live in those communities, but also because it's just part of us being a really good community partner. Yeah. And then I'd tell people, I always challenge people, like, come up to our events. When you go up to a football game that is taking place at Eastern before classes even start, and so it's in September, it's amazing how many community members are up, at the tailgate zone, and they come over to the game and they watch the game, or they come up to our visual and performing arts events. We put on our just was at our holiday music festival, and it was packed. They were sold out, and they were coming into the McKenzie Theater and saying, if you have any empty seats, move over, sit closer to your friend there that you may not know yet, so that we can free up some spaces, some seats in the building. That's not all people from the university. That's people from all over the community and the region. And we bring in, all those parents and families who are coming to see their students perform, or be part of homecoming or an athletic event, or have a studio show, or showing out in our spring symposium. We show our academic research. There's all those folks coming into the community and helping support it here too. And so the long-term economic impact is significant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. And it is. It's funny. Kyle's a big fan of C of I. And not really. And I was coming back.
He would not be. I know.
Yeah. And Justin will appreciate this, because I was coming back from Nampa on Sunday night, and just in Caldwell, there's that sign that you have a billboard there. This is Mountie country, or whatever that was. It's like, right in Caldwell. It was like, oh, that's funny.
Yeah. Well,
they probably love that.
Credit to Justin Montgomery, our marketing director, who put those up. There's one like that in the Dalles. There's another one here in town. So it's kind of like just asserting, hey, we're here.
Yeah. All of that
nice.
branding,
Like
that's
it.
great stuff. So,
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tim, for coming on. And we spend a lot of time talking about EOU, particularly EOU sports, with Kyle, and following everything that's going on. And man, we all followed the volleyball team. They did
awesome.
They did so awesome
well.
again.
Yeah.
This
2
year.
years in a row.
Yeah.
2 years in a row, get there, and then they lose to the eventual, conference champ or the national champion. So that's, that's.
If you're going to lose to somebody, that's
I just always, I've watched, go a lot of those games, and just, Coach Kaki's just approach to coaching is really good.
Her players love her.
Her players love her.
Absolutely adore her.
She, I mean, all of our coaches are really. We don't have coaches that go out of control on the sidelines or on the court side, but she just was always so good. I just love watching when, they drop a couple points, and then she brings everybody together, and they come out there, regroup, go back out there, and just take it by storm. And it's just amazing, and it's really neat to watch coaches perform at that.
Her composure is unparalleled.
Right? Isn't it? It's so good.
It's like she has 20 more years of coaching experience than she actually does.
Yeah.
Composure-wise, it's crazy. If I was on that sideline, I couldn't be that composed.
Right? I know. I'm in the stands, and I can't be that composed.
Right?
So,
Yeah, I'm supposed to be neutral, taking pictures, and I'm not that composed.
She does a great job. Yeah. And again, all of our coaches really, it's we have a really good crew up there, and our athletic director Angie Weisenflue is another fantastic coach. Again, they set the standard. I think the way that you operate and behave and perform, and I think that's really good, especially again when you have so many community members and folks watching our games and participating in intercollegiate athletics. They see how it's supposed to be done. or you come up to our you see our theater program. I mean, it's just the levels of, I've had people come by after seeing some of our musicals and say, I've been to Broadway, and that's right up there. It's like, wow, these folks are really good, and some of our students are stunning performers.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
And there's a lot to brag about. I mean, when you think about the athletic programs and the art programs and the studies and I mean, there's a lot for you guys to brag about.
Yeah, there is. Yeah, and we're the leading experts in the state on early childhood learning, and we've got one of our faculty who's appointed by the governor to be on a statewide commission on early childhood learning, because we're really good at that. And our College of Education is just excellent. But all of our programs do. We have students that graduate, and that's the thing that I've always loved about Eastern. That's why I'm back here. That's why I've chosen to stay here, is because we really change lives. When I see the students who can, I've worked with so many of them who've been able to go from maybe being, their parents were migrants. They were able to go to maybe, play soccer at Treasure Valley and then get recruited to come play soccer at Eastern and then get their degree and get their master's, and now they're back coaching and teaching in their home community. That's huge.
Right.
Or you watch the single working mom who is, checking out groceries and, gets encouraged to go follow her dream and get a degree, and a few years later is able to say, hey, I don't have to worry about buying presents for my kids at Christmas anymore. I mean, that's significant, and we do that.
Yeah.
We do that, and we do it really well, and we're good at it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, my son has it narrowed down to 3 schools that he's going to go to and play football at, and I can't wait for him to be a Mountie.
I love it. Hey,
I'm not putting any pressure on him.
Yeah.
But I mean, ultimately it's his decision. But if I could just convey to him, you know what I mean, like the academic side and just the accountability of athletes at EOU.
They have, we have some of our highest retention rates. Yeah, their coaches sit down with them on a regular basis and check in. How you doing? How's it going? Let's look at your classes. What are you struggling with? Do you have any problems at home or with, a girlfriend or something? And that wraparound piece is what we want to do with all of our students. If we could emulate that across the university, I think it'd be just huge.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, and I also want to thank you guys for being one of the primary sponsors for the East-West Shrine football game that we do.
That was
cool. Absolutely. Yeah, we love getting word out about Easter.
We really appreciate you guys stepping up doing that. That helps. We're super involved in getting that event off the ground, and
Another great asset in the community. Bring all those young players here, and they can experience Eastern and the region even, and it's a great recruiting tool for us. So it's a win.
Yeah,
every year we've had at least one EOU player since we took it over.
I mean, I wish they were playing the game here, but and we've spent a lot of time talking with them about that. But what a cool opportunity for them to spend a whole week on the campus.
Right.
Of EOU practicing.
And how gracious of EOU and Coach Camp especially too. He doesn't have to do anything, but I made a post about this. I made a phone call to him. One of the kids blew out a cleat. Didn't have any other cleats. I called Camp. I was like, what do you got? He's like, come to my office right now. 10 minutes later, he's got me a pair of cleats that kid's size.
Yep.
Boom, let's go. You know what I mean? They don't
Right.
have to do that. That's just kind of how things operate up there. And it's awesome.
Good
That's
stuff.
what we're about.
All right, you want to get us out of here, man?
Let's do it. On this day,
21st.
December 21st. I thought, is it the 21st? Really?
It's the 21st.
Dang,
Yeah.
I thought, all right. 1803, the French flag is lowered in New Orleans to mark the formal transfer of Louisiana from France to the United States. How much do you think it cost, BC? How much do you think we paid for Louisiana?
What year again?
1803.
$100,000.
$15 million.
$15 million.
Yeah. Which back then, that's probably like $15 billion.
That's the
today, or
Louisiana
more.
purchase.
Yeah, well, that's from
Mm-hmm.
France, Louisiana.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. 1812 on this day, Grimm's Fairy Tales, or Children's and Household Tales by Jacob Grimm and Wilhelm Grimm, is first published. 1812. And then let's jump all the way to 1990. The world's first website and server go live at CERN. 1990 on this day. Wow. And then here's the crazy one, and this is the last one. 2012, Apple is denied a patent for mobile pinch to zoom gestures by the U.S. Patent Office. Could you imagine if they would have got that patent?
No. What a mess that would be.
We would all be Apple users. We would
Yeah,
all be using
yeah.
them dumb iPhones.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what I mean? Like if they would have got, because nobody's gonna sit there and like go in and
Yeah.
it would have been bad. Number one song in America on this day in 2003, "Hey Ya" by Outkast.
All right.
And then the quote of the day comes from Thomas Edison. "Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up." One more time. "Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up." Good.
All right. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're off until
Yeah.
Thursday after Christmas.
Yeah.
No show next Tuesday.
Merry Christmas, Tim.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry
Appreciate
Christmas.
you. Yeah.
Justin, yeah.
Yep.
Yep. Hey, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you being here. And I guess we'll see you next Thursday, right?
Yep.
All right.